on, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream podcast up for the people podcast. We have a great show. Before we kick everything off, if you want to support the show, you can do so by joining us on Patreon. The link is in the description. You can also become a Rockfin Premium member, of course. You can do so by clicking on the Rockfin link in the description, becoming a premium subscriber. Then you get all of my premium content, but you also get the content of other members of Rockfin that you probably like Kim Iverson, Convo Couch, Jimmy Dore, everybody. You just if you become a premium subscriber to one, you become a premium subscriber to all. So that's actually my favorite way, because you get more content for more premium content for less. Also, if you have Cash App, you can do that. And if you have Bitcoin, you can do that too. Both of the links in the description. Oh, hold up real quick. My power out. Hold on, 1 second. Yeah, I was about to be talking to a black screen because I definitely have no power. But God, anyway, back in this thing. So yeah, you want to support the show? Those are the ways you can do it. We have an exciting show today for several reasons. One, we're going to talk about this whole Kevin McCarthy situation, because if you are a leftist, like conservatives, they got their own reasons for appreciating the removal of Kevin McCarthy. Some of those reasons align, like the Ukraine situation. Some of those reasons align with leftists or independent leftists, populists, whatever. But on the left over here, on the left, the populist left, if you will, the commonsensical left, we got some other stuff to talk about regarding the ousting of Kevin McCarthy. Has greater implications. It tells a bigger story than the story that was announced yesterday, October 3rd, 2023. We got a story from a couple of years ago that we're gonna have to revisit, because me personally, I'm not a fan of I'm not a huge fan of chicken. I know a lot of people are, but what I am a huge fan of is crow. Not eating it, but I'm a fan of other people eating it, and that's basically what's about to happen and what is happening. Oh my God, bro! I got a lot of the Twitter, I got the whole thing, I got the beef, everybody trying to defend their position. I got all of it, so we're gonna be looking at that stuff. I know my collar, and Bond said, "Fix your collar, looks lopsided." I know my collar looks lopsided. It is lopsided. Now it's lopsided on the other side. Man, it's hot. Plus, I like my collar like this. How else are you going to see my Spider-Man tattoo? Appreciate you checking up on me. So, as you all know, Kevin McCarthy was ousted as Speaker of the House. He was ousted as Speaker of the House. Some of you might be thinking, that's crazy. Ain't no way that Republicans voted with Democrats in order to oust this guy, because no, that happened. That actually happened. It was because somebody was actually brave enough to stand up to Gaetz, to stand up to McCarthy and put a vote to get him out. And that was Matt Gaetz, which I was kind of surprised. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't like Matt Gaetz, for all the problems I've had with his representation throughout his career, I don't know what has happened with this man over the last several months, but I feel like he had this sit down with ayahuasca. If you know, you know. But it feels like he had this sit down. He was just locked in a room for a week with ayahuasca, and him and ayahuasca had a little conversation about himself and his role in the country, because Matt has been on a tear lately. Like I be scrolling through clips, and we're gonna watch a couple of them, and I'm like, God damn, bro, I want to tweet this, but I don't even know if I can tweet. Like this shit is fire though, but I don't want people to get the trip and think I'm like I support it. But damn, this he's spitting, and we're gonna look at some of those tweets. We're gonna look at some of those clips. But Matt Gaetz actually had the balls to do what progressive Democrats would never do, which is he drew a line in the sand. He said, if you are going to work with the enemy, and indeed, Joe Biden is the enemy, right? He said, if you as a Republican, because that's the team he plays for, are going to work with the enemy on an issue that the majority of Americans don't support, and you're going to do it in a very like sneaky and conniving way, and then lie about it to everybody, and then try to hold the government up over it, then I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to put myself, my career on the line. I'm going to put the information on Front Street. And, you know, because people got to remember when Matt Gaetz initially proposed this, no one thought that it was actually going to happen. That's what's wild. Because what Kevin McCarthy was like, there's a lot of smoke screens going on about spending and program, like, you know, that's not what it was about. It was really about the money to Ukraine and them trying to lump everything in together so that you are forced to vote for the money in Ukraine if you want anything else attached for either party, whether it be for what the Democrats want or the Republicans want. And Matt Gaetz talks about that in one of the clips I'm going to play. This man did something that we expected AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman to do during Force to Vote. I know. A lot of y'all remember Force to Vote. I was in DC for Force to Vote. I'm going to show y'all, we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to show you guys a couple of the clips from Matt Gaetz that had me just like, damn, I don't know who this man is. I'm genuinely impressed. So here's one of them.
To hear any colleague give Speaker McCarthy credit for moving on to the single subject appropriations bills. As you heard my colleague, Mr. Biggs, say, that was never the plan from Speaker McCarthy. The week before we moved on to those single subject appropriations bills, the plan was another CR. He pitched a CR. They tried to get us to vote for a CR, and only when a brave few said, we are done governing by continuing resolution. We are here to eulogize the era of continuing resolution. We will not do it. We will not pass it. These bills can go. The spending may rise and fall as the years pass. But the notion that we're going to lump in the Department of Education and the Department of Labor with our military and our troops and our Border Patrol is fundamentally unserious, and I would suggest chaotic. We cannot do that. It was only because we forced that to happen. And by the way, if we continue with Speaker McCarthy, the appropriations process will go right back to what he wanted it to go back to. Just a sideshow, just a puppet show, just something to keep the hamsters on the hamster wheel as they continue to back people up against a calendar, centralize power with the lobbyists and special interests that move all kind of money through the leadership. And then that's how they get their way. And that's why the American people have been getting screwed decade after decade. And I'm not going to tolerate it anymore without a fight.
Y'all, how can I argue it? Like, what do I say to that? I know Matt is a Republican. I'm aware of it. I get it. I'm with you. But yo, what is there to disagree with? That here's great. That's not even, we're not even done. Go ahead. Here's another one.
Said that I was very disappointed that Mr. McHenry said that we won't be engaging in the people's work until next week, until Tuesday of next week. And I think that's burning a lot of time.
Oh, just to make clear, so he said that the House is leaving town until next Tuesday, and then the Speaker's race is going to be then?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I think we should stay. We should work. I think we should have a Speaker election this week. I think we could easily come together as a conference to do that. And so I just hate when we pause the clock. I hate when we stop our work and don't do the people's business.
Who are you going to get behind as a candidate?
Like, so not only did he, when he did the work, when he got what he wanted, which was to remove the Speaker of the House, this wasn't apparent, like allegedly. I'm just saying, like, what it looks like right now. It doesn't look like the man had intended on wasting people's time. It didn't look like an attempt to stall a vote, to slow. He like, bro, what you mean? Nah, we were supposed to finish this today, like as soon as possible. I didn't do this so that we could kick the can down the road. And he's upset that people are using this opportunity to kick the can down the road and take some time off. In other words, Matt Gaetz is suggesting that maybe Congress should do the job that they're getting paid for year-round, salary, no matter whether or not the government shuts down. He's saying that they should do their job. Bro, I can't believe it. And I can't believe that this is a contract. Like, what he said wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, it shouldn't be. Yeah, we just literally got rid of the Speaker of the House, and we know we can't do business until we resolve this issue. And the whole reason that I offered to, suggested to remove him was so that we can continue doing business. Why aren't we doing it? Once again, I'm in a situation where I'm like, what can I say? He's absolutely right. I 100% agree with him. But he got more. He got more fired. Oh, I think this might be my favorite one. Hold on.
And when it comes to how those raise money, I take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations. I'll be happy to fund my political operation through the work of hardworking Americans, $10 and $20 and $30 at a time. And you all keep showing up at the lobbyist fundraisers and see how that goes for you. I reserve.
Bruh, no, he did not. No, he's boo all you want. First of all, considering Congress has an approval rating of like 0.2%, when you're getting booed by the rest of Congress, that probably means that you are dropping some heat. You are dropping some fire. You are telling the truth. You are exposing the system that they actively participate in and benefit from, and they don't like it. Man, we gotta watch that clip again. Can I watch that clip again? Y'all mind watch? Because boy, when I heard that, I almost jumped out my damn bed last night. I was like,
and when it comes to how those raise money, I take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations. I'll be happy to fund my political operation through the work of hardworking Americans, $10 and $20 and $30 at a time. And you all keep showing up at the lobbyist fundraisers and see how that goes for you. I reserve.
Whoo! See, now this is why this is why they had Ilhan Omar over here staring at that boy like this. Hold on, let me show you. Ilhan Omar, y'all see how Ilhan Omar staring at Gaetz?
omnibus bill or a series of mini buses that lump these disparate things together. The American people want all of us to take the omnibus bill
Nigga in the
or a
list.
series of mini buses that lump these disparate things together. The American people want all of us to take the omnibus bill. People want all of us to take the omnibus bill
Look down, look away.
that lump these disparate things together. The American people want all of us
You go
to
ahead.
take the omnibus bill or a series of mini buses that lump these
Inline.
disparate
First of
things
all,
together.
that's Hotham. You need to stop. That's Hotham. You know you ain't supposed to. You married, looking at that man with lust. About to bag her another white boy. Lord, baby Jesus. But in all seriousness, like somebody I just saw in the comment section, somebody said no wonder Jamal Bowman pulled the fire alarm. This man Gaetz is on fire. They like Gaetz is spitting facts. Now, personally, I actually do not know if he takes super PAC money. I don't know how much lobbying money he takes. But if he does take the lobbying money and he is still like if he just suddenly randomly reached this point where he's like, yo, fuck this. I would rather not have the money at all, call all these people out, because he just reached that same point that Justin Amash reached, Tulsi Gabbard reached. Thomas Massey's basically already been there. He tries, but you know, there's only so much he can do by himself. After because Gaetz has been dealing with the Hunter Biden situation. He's been dealing with all of that. And he just has finally reached a point where he's like, yo, fuck this. And I have an immense amount of respect for him for showing conviction. I can't tell you how many, like, as a leftist, my biggest problem with professional leftists, or as RBN likes to refer to them as the professional managerial class, they're the biggest obstacle for us achieving anything that we want. They are. I tweeted this out yesterday. I said not a single Democrat would ever hold Pelosi accountable in the way Gaetz did McCarthy. Every self-proclaimed progressive in Congress should be embarrassed. Embarrassed. Do you want to know why? Because what people continue to forget is that when it was time to force the vote, people forget it was between Nancy Pelosi and Kevin McCarthy. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that was who was competing. And at first, the argument was force the vote wouldn't work because we don't have the numbers. There's not going to be enough people. Oh, they were actually worried that, they said it wouldn't matter. They were like, Nancy Pelosi is going to win regardless. Republicans are going to vote McCarthy. Democrats are going to vote Pelosi, and it's not going to matter. But what ended up actually happening, and more or less, like I'm not going to go into the super minutia of it, but more or less what ended up happening is Republicans actually didn't like McCarthy as much as they thought. They were abstaining. Then on the other side of that fence, I was about to say, don't nada, from out of nowhere, Democrats, even corporate Democrats, were abstaining against Pelosi to the point where the squad would have been the tipping point. They, for the first time ever, people who labeled themselves as being progressives had all the leverage to get what they wanted. For the first time ever during Force to Vote. That was what was y'all know I've been had my problems with AOC. When everyone else was saying, give her a chance. Yo, what was I saying? What was I taking heat for? No, I'm not going to keep pretending like I don't see who she is. It took people until Force to Vote before a lot of people could finally admit and acknowledge, okay, maybe she's false. Maybe she's a fraud. I had been saying that. All I knew was that Force Vote was just going to confirm what I had already been saying. What Convo Couch had already been saying. Even Jimmy was saying it. There weren't many of us, though. And a lot of us took heat from the Sam Cedars of the world, Emma Vigilance, CYT. Y'all just, Ryan Grimm, y'all aren't being too mean. Y'all don't understand how politics work. Y'all, no. I acknowledge the pattern and reality I see in front of me. And when they had the power to hold Nancy Pelosi accountable, they chose to do otherwise. And their excuse was, what happens if we end up with Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House? What we said, and what literally turned out to be true was, I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? We don't get universal health care. He still sends money to, in this particular case, Ukraine. He still gives, approves money and bills to police. Like he still covers for Hunter Biden because that's his job. I'm like, literally, what is the worst that could happen? He's not making a promise to adhere to leftist values. He shouldn't have stood a chance to be Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi actually had something to lose because remember, it was expected for her to be Speaker of the House because Biden was about to be president of the United States. Or actually, I think he already was at this point. And to get anything Biden wanted without having to face resistance, potentially, from Republicans, Nancy Pelosi or a Democrat in general, it would be better if they were Speaker of the House. And progressives had a chance to do this. To say, if you are going to continue to work with the enemy against the people, against the values you supposedly espouse, then we will make sure that you will. Hell, if we can't get what we want, you damn sure not going to get what you want. And we are going to make a public spectacle of you. And every time we are interviewed, we are going to tell them, just like Gaetz did, every single time you were interviewed, we're going to tell them exactly why we voted against you. We're going to tell them exactly why we held up this process. We're going to tell them exactly why we cannot approve you being Speaker of the House despite you being. We're going to tell them that you refuse to give people health care. Mind you, this is during the time where they're wearing masks. Still. Why? Because there's a P word going on. They're talking about how important it is to continue. They're talking about it, not actually doing it, but they were talking about how important it is to continue those policies. But you don't want to give people health care. But you want to convince me you care about health. You want to force the thing, that experimental thing. Y'all want to force people because it's about health care, right? But they don't want to give people health care. They don't want to give people the means to pay for their health care. And all you had to do was be consistent. What does AOC always complain about whenever she gets interviewed? It's just hard. It's just hard because we don't have the leverage. We need to elect more. We need to elect more progressives. Okay, well, you did that. You did everything that, like, all the excuses that you had for why you couldn't get anything done, especially universal health care, was out the window. You couldn't blame Trump anymore, right? You couldn't blame Trump, but what you could do is so they would say, oh, Biden wouldn't sign it. Well, then guess what? You get to hold Biden accountable now. If you finally get past Pelosi, you hold Biden accountable. You make a spectacle out of Biden. You go to the media and explain exactly what you're doing, what you want, and why you were challenging the man from your own party. And guess why Gaetz got so much media coverage? Because he's a Republican challenging his own party. You get more coverage for that, not less. Like I said here, I said, all I heard for years is that force to vote would never work. And here comes Matt Gaetz forcing the vote effectively and holding the speaker accountable from his own party. This proves the left is the left's greatest enemy and largest obstacle. Or those who claim to be leftists. Because AOC and the squad are deeply unserious, they are selfish, they are self-serving. And AOC herself is a narcissist. Like, good God, if I ever seen a classic case of narcissism, she is the classic case. Ousted, House speakers for both the US and Canada have been ousted within a week of each other, all because of Ukraine. Imagine losing your job because you couldn't say no to Nazis. That is crazy to me. That is the wild shit. You lost your job, got embarrassed, became a national spectacle because you wanted to make a deal with the demented, senile president from the opposite party who is wildly unpopular, and you wanted to make a deal to send money to Ukraine, which is also wildly unpopular, that if doesn't get done would shut down the government, which obviously is also unpopular. And you wanted to send the money to Nazis. I think Nazism is still unpopular. Y'all have to let me know. Because based off of everything lately, we don't know. Is Nazism unpopular? People are getting applauded for it. Y'all saw the Political article. If you didn't see it, check out I posted a clip of it yesterday on YouTube in Rockfin. Bro, the Political article that said, just because you fought against the USSR during World War II doesn't mean you're a Nazi. Kind of meant you were a Nazi. Kind of meant that you were a Nazi. A little bit. I want to check out some of these comments really quick, and then we're going to talk. I want to show y'all some of these. I'll show y'all some of the arguments back and forth over the force to vote, because you know that was coming back up. We knew that was coming back up. That's the first thing I thought about whenever McCarthy was ousted. Joel Smith, wow, I had no idea McCarthy was out. Glad you're streaming. Yup, happened last night. That's some freaking good speech. I'm assuming you're referring to McCarthy. Super Saiyan 4 Curtis, she looked thirsty. Talking about Ilana. Yo, damn, I wish anybody looked at me like that. The way Ilana Mar was looking at Matt Gaetz. I don't think anybody's ever looked at me like that. If you did, I didn't catch it. Shoot me a DM. Was AOC having her hair done? You know, it's hilarious. She had just did an interview, I think yesterday, where she clearly had gotten her hair done for the interview because she expected to be on TV. AOC is a fraud, absolutely. Let's see what these YouTube comments looking like. I wish I could see Nina Turner debate Nancy Pelosi. Absolutely. Absolutely. Personally, I wish I would see, Nina recently has been challenging the party a lot more. And I appreciate that. She should call them out more often. That's my own complaint. She should call them out more often. I don't know why people feel, there's a fear of being rejected, right? There's a fear of opportunity being taken away from you, a fear of livelihood. It's different I have this tendency to be a little bit more empathetic because I'm aware of how human beings just operate in general, right? You grow up, when you're growing up, going through high school, especially college, in the beginning of your career, you create this clique, this group of friends, usually through shared common experiences. And normally y'all have a shared outlook, more or less, of life, right? Through these connections, like you go to college, yeah, you go to college to learn, but you mostly go to college to network. And this network of friends usually sticks with you, especially from back in the day, from Nina generation. Like that network sticks with you and helps you secure the bag, or in other words, get a job for the rest of your career. And they're your friends, right? We also know that we are now in an age, unfortunately, where, especially for that generation, if you come out and challenge, in this particular case, the liberal agenda, quote unquote, or neoliberal rather agenda, the Democrats, within the Democratic Party, because a lot of the times they're part of that like network, the little clique. If you challenge them, a lot of the times they're not even worried. The person may not even be worried about like, oh, the backlash from the party itself. Like, damn, but now my friends are going to think that I am a Republican. And then they're going to talk about me behind my back. And then I'm not going to have friends anymore. And what if I need a job? This person is not going to help me out with the job. What if somebody sees at work? Like, that's how people think. A lot of the times, their politics actually have nothing to do with their beliefs or their opinions or their actual politics. Their politics are actually that they portray or that they project is a reflection that they want to, or excuse me, a projection, not a reflection. It is a projection that they put out there because they want to get a certain reaction, or they want to be perceived in a specific light because of everything else that is involved, that comes with being perceived in a way that society deems approved. In other words, they fall victim to the algorithm. And when you know what it sounds like when you get tired of the algorithm, when you just are so exhausted from dealing with it, you know, like what it sounds like Matt Gaetz' speech. It sounds like Tulsi Gabbard when she left the Democratic Party and called Hillary Clinton the queen of the warmongers. It sounds like RFK Jr. when he decided to say screw the Democratic Party and go independent and just run on a warpath ever since then. Sounds like Jimmy Dore when he left TYT. It's been raging ever since. Russell Brand, really nice, polished, and well articulated and charming, you know, but still. Fiorella, Pasta, all these people who me obviously, but just tired of the algorithm, tired of I'm not playing this game. I don't care if you like me anymore. I don't. Once you get to the point in your life where you stop caring who likes you, and more importantly, it's like when you get to a point of selflessness, as crazy as that sounds, you get to a certain point of selflessness because the projection, like the Sam Cedar, right? Emma Vigilant, Cenk, the projection of political beliefs that they put out there is not because it's not for you, it's not for me, it's not for the movement. It's for their personal livelihood, right? It's because they have something to gain personally for it or something to maintain. So once you get past all that, like the selfishness, I could be famous, I could be rich, I could be popular, I could be this, I could be. And it's actually for you, like you stop caring. Like, I don't care if y'all like me or not. It is what it is. Consequences be damned. That is when you everything. You think about everything differently. That's the point that I'm at. I think that might be the point that Matt Gaetz has reached, especially with that lobbyist speech. Just Malcolm X warned of the fox, absolutely, or the wolves, rather, fox and wolves, all of them. Charlie said, "Good riddance, McCarthy. You thought you could have disrespected those who put you there and thumb your nose. Well, there you have it." McCarthy did in Obama to Trump. The one thing you'll never be is president, Matt Gaetz. Yeah. He tried that. McCarthy, Mban said, McCarthy was just protecting the money laundering. Absolutely. Think about all the high-end car dealers in Ukraine who will make less than 7 figures next year. Oh, the bankruptcies. Absolutely, 100%. So y'all know the stop the vote situation got heated a little bit. And Bree, of course, Jimmy Dore was like one of the main ones being attacked, but because Bree, Brian Joy Gray, was in support of it very vocally, the algorithm junkies, they were attacking her, trying to link her to everything. Like, Jimmy said something stupid once. Do you want to? So that's who you're aligning with? So like Jimmy, Jank, and a couple of others, Bree and a couple of others were getting bombarded by the Janks of the world, Sam Cedars of the world, Emma Vigilant, all those, Jordan Yule. Who's the other douchebag that I blocked, or he blocked me because I said his mustache made him look like a creepy pedophile. Can't remember his name. I'll remember it eventually, but this is a tweet from Jimmy. So Jank said, if the Democrats vote with McCarthy, they have to ask for something that's actually going to help the American people, not just more earmarks and privileges for themselves. Ask for a vote on paid family leave. It polls at 84%. There's no reason why we can't pass it. Jimmy said, Jank is now advocating for Democrats to use the strategy of force the vote. He's hoping you forget he lied about it and sided with crooked politicians while slandering grassroots activists when the Democrats actually had the power to do it. Fraud squad defender. Bro, I swear sometimes the lack of self-awareness from Jank is beyond me. I don't know how he can. Bro, y'all know he just went on The Hill Rising and argued with Bree over like supporting force to vote. Like, that just happened like a week ago, and he was defending his position. And now he's literally arguing for force to vote. It's wild. He's like, hey guys, since it's a convenient situation in a moment in history that we may never get again, and you actually have some leverage, maybe you should do something with it. Oh, you mean like we argued? No, this is different. That's Jank's motto. This is different, or, well, no, because Jimmy supported it. That's basically how it goes. Y'all like this video, share this video. But just the lack of self-awareness is insane to me. How you get on Twitter and just make just make a fool of yourself like this all the time, Jane? Come on, man. This is Jimmy saying, day after day, we are shown that force to vote was the correct strategy. And AOC and the fraud squad turned on their base and sided with the establishment. Imagine the energy, enthusiasm, and power to make demands the left could have had if they were more like Matt Gaetz and less like themselves. Don't forget the liars in the lefty media who slandered us and lied to protect crooked politicians such as Cenk Uygur, Ryan Grimm, Sam Cedar, Emma Vigilant, Anna Kasparian. Who else? David Doe from Rational National. Don't worry, more will come. But y'all know, 100%. Do not forget. Once again, I hate the fact that like hindsight's 2020. I wish that y'all would listen to some of it. That's like my biggest thing about this whole media situation, like just being an independent journalist or being a reporter, podcast, whatever, is y'all got to just stop shooting the messenger, bro. A lot of y'all, shout out to the new people who came, but a lot of y'all didn't. Y'all hadn't watched my show before and hadn't come here before because of something I said about AOC, right? So some of y'all were upset because of something I said about Bernie. So at a time where I was probably much more respectful in my rhetoric towards my my rhetoric regarding my disagreements with them, like y'all just didn't like what you heard and y'all shot the messenger and it because like instead of listening to the facts and just maybe something to it. It is important to never forget, like what Jimmy said, but like it's also important to get it right in real time. And if somebody that you listen to, trust, believe in, hell, even if you don't, you can listen and be like, you know what? I don't know if this is true or not. They are telling us, but if I'm saying it, it's because it's an established pattern. I'm like, yo, okay, now it's time to start paying attention, guys, because it was this thing last week, is this thing this week, and now is this thing the next week, and every time we've seen this has been the result. So instead of just rejecting reality and shooting the messenger, and you know how much leverage we could have if people would just be like, well, maybe he's right. Let me wait a second. I'm gonna pay more attention now. Not that person's wrong. That person's a fraud. That person's a grifter. Like, no, I need to pay. Maybe I need to pay a little bit more attention. Because you know what I also say, especially if you listen to the way that people word certain criticisms, right? In 2018, ladies and gentlemen, or 2019 even, what did I have to gain? Just using myself as an example. What did I have to gain from criticizing AOC? As a leftist that was coming up, what did I have to gain by objectively criticizing and holding Bernie Sanders accountable? Nothing. Really. Like nothing. I didn't wait until 2021, 2022 to start holding Bernie accountable. Then I had everything because it was easy. It was obvious. Now it's easy and obvious to hold Bernie accountable. And everybody knows he's a snake now. But when somebody comes out and holds someone accountable that they would normally that they would normally agree with, they don't have anything to gain if their audience generally likes the person as well. So there has to be a reason. And I know it might sound crazy, but in my particular case, or maybe in a case like Fiorella and Pasta or even Jimmy or Kim, like usually it's an altruistic reason. I care about what I do. I don't want to misinform y'all. If I'm going to give you guys the truth and an opinion and the facts, I'm trying to arm you all with the knowledge and foresight to make good decisions for yourselves. That's why it is important to remember. Don't forget. That's why it's important for him to say that. Don't forget who lied to you. Because how many times have people lied straight to your faces and so many of their audience members go back and believe them? Who's JFB? Almoço hoje, feijoada, churrasco, frango e arroz. Ou para amanhã eu comi pão de queijo, mas para almoçar, sim, eu vou comer frango e arroz. Oh, there's another one. Hold on. Because these forced to vote tweets, they the gift that keep on giving. I'm probably gonna have to come back on later today just to look at the new ones, because that's about to be a whole thing today. This is one from Bree talking to us.
Been some diversity of opinion in the House. We had Rokana on the show earlier this week. He was very clear that he would not vote against the stimulus on the basis of the $15 minimum wage not being included. However, other progressive has been more flexible on this issue. Jamal Bowman has indicated that he's very frustrated that the House isn't fighting, House Democrats aren't fighting harder, rather. And you heard Pramila Jayapal indicate something similar. So, people like David Sirota, smart political reporters who have been on the Hill a long time, have pointed out that this is a situation where there is leverage because of narrow majorities in the House, the narrow Democratic majority in the House, in the same way as we saw last month or back in January with the Force the Vote campaign. If, 10 or so progressives were willing to withhold their votes, the posture of this conversation would change dramatically. If Republicans are willing to say they're not going to vote for this enormously popular stimulus bill because they think they're giving Americans who are struggling in an unprecedented way too much money, it's really damning when you look at Democrats who are unwilling to hold the line to give Americans more, the help they actually voted for and the help they actually need.
Yeah.
Yup. Facts. It's truly insane how well these clips hold up.
It's enormous.
I said, Bree, we're going to have to talk about how you have all your clips so perfectly organized and waiting to drop the moment the situation arises where you inevitably prove me or progressives wrong again on almost every issue. It's the most silently loud pettiness I have ever seen, because bro, how? Every single time something happens, Bree got the clip locked and loaded. It just bop, boop. Told y'all asses, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna drop this clip right here. What is your database? How are you organizing these clips? Do you just got like an automatic uploader thing that we need to know about? Isn't it an app? Because I need to know about this, because every single time she remembers exactly what she said on the exact day she says it and posts it. Yo, the fact that you're paying that close attention and you just waiting to redrop the clip, that's a level of pettiness, and I can appreciate. I'm not gonna lie to you. Zavidar, appreciate it. Obrigado, te agradeço. Preciso de praticar mais, especialmente para entender os cariocas. Eles falam como eles sempre têm alguma coisa dentro da boca deles. Next clip. This is going to be the last clip that I think we're going to play for this, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about the situation in Haiti, because no one else is talking about it. Yeah, I know I love me a clip.
Second round. Now you have 15 people who vote for Hakeem Jeffries, 215 who vote for McCarthy, and 205 who vote for.
I'm not gonna lie. You white as hell if you just say Hakeem Jeffries. It's Hakeem. I don't know why that was so funny to me. It's Hakeem Jeffries. Boy, his name is Hakeem. Ain't nobody ever been named, ain't no black man, I don't care who he is. Nobody's ever been named Hakeem Jeffries. There's not an accent on his name. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Second round. Now you have 15 people who vote for Hakeem Jeffries, 215 who vote for McCarthy, and 205 who vote for Nancy Pelosi. What happens then, Virgil?
Wait, hang on. Why would if memory serves, McCarthy got 212 votes? So you're not saying that number goes up?
No, I'm suggesting in round two,
nobody can marshal a majority, so it goes to round three.
No. You don't need you need a plurality of names.
That's not true.
It would require
Democrats
would have to vote for Kevin McCarthy to be speaker. or
Sarah,
a large number will have to abstain altogether.
Yes, or abstain. Under your scenario, Sam, you need a majority of the people voting for a name.
Okay, so let's say,
which is to say not voting present, which means
Not
that
voting
if every single Democrat shows up and they vote for someone, then unless they have a majority within that caucus, I'll say it's not a majority, and this is again assuming the Republicans voted as a bloc and they're a minority, and no Democrat is going to vote for McCarthy, obviously, then it's just going to keep going to successive ballots.
Right.
And this is not an unprecedented situation.
Right.
It's simply a situation we've not had in 100 years.
Okay, now I can say it again. It's a better stopping point anyway. Yeah, I know I was muted. But I remember having to go through this entire process of explaining the situation, like the details of it over and over and over again, because of what Sam just did, because of what people like Emma and Anna and Cenk were doing. What they do is they give you they put out false information on their shows. They put out false information on Twitters and set up fake hypotheses, right? These fake hypotheticals that, oh, well, if the way it works is this, and this, and therefore forced to vote is stupid. No, that's not how it works. But when they get in front of their audiences are basing their opinions on whether or not they should get behind forced to vote and demand accountability of the candidates, or excuse me, the politicians, based off of false information, like how Sam just tried to set it. You're like, no, that's not how it works. So I appreciate the fact that Bree and the other guy, Creep, are taking the time to explain why Sam is full of shit. Because that is what people like Sam, what people like Cenk like to do. They like to talk as if they understand how this stuff actually works without even doing the research, by the way. They probably go to CNN, listen to AOC or Nancy Pelosi explain it, and then they regurgitate those talking points when they know for a fact you can't trust a damn thing basically anyone says on CNN if they were invited on by themselves to explain. And it's our job then to equip you guys with the knowledge to combat these just completely false talking points. But like, what's crazy is the degree of confidence that Sam speaks when he's being wrong, when he's just wrong. He speaks with such a high degree of confidence, like, and that's why you shouldn't support forced to vote. And it's like it's based completely on false information. A person who doesn't understand parliamentary procedure or the process. But his audience don't care. They just want to hear the logic that ultimately assumes that they are correct. So that's why it's important that you have these conversations happen, so you can so that you can learn the truth and the facts and how things actually work.
And importantly, this could go on for dozens of rounds, as it did in the historical precedent that Virgil is nodding to. And this is where we start to talk about media attention and spectacle, where Nancy Pelosi, who 3/4 of Americans want to step down, a bipartisan majority of people can't stand Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, who is down.
We're going to talk about Democrats because the Republicans. The Republicans are irrelevant.
Yeah, it's like half of Democrats want her. I think it's a majority of Democrats want her to step down. So the question is, isn't this part of the spectacle that we're trying to create around the issue of why 15 million people just lost their health insurance and what the government is going to do about it in this moment? So we don't end up in a situation where Joe Biden is saying, let's do more COBRA payments, let's give more giveaways to the private insurance industry. And even if it doesn't result, obviously, in Medicare for all tomorrow, what it does is finally force has the best chance of forcing.
Exactly. Forcing a public conversation about the issue. Exactly. It's not complicated. Nothing gets passed without a mandate to pass it. And a mandate can only come from the people. Well, no, I can't say nothing gets passed. Nothing good gets passed. Things get passed without mandates, but nothing good, nothing for the people has ever gotten passed by Congress without the people, the populace, damn near holding a figurative knife to the necks of those who work on Capitol Hill. And even then, right? Even then, that might not matter. And you have to, but the conversation that comes from it matters, and it elevates to a different level where state judges have to deal with it. The state Supreme Courts have to deal with it. And even then, sometimes that doesn't work. But the conversation is still so loud, opinions sway one way or the other, because, you know, the conversation is popular now and people want to talk about it. And when it's a popular conversation, the shows are going to platform it because that gets them more views. And it elevates and elevates and elevates. And then eventually you get to a Supreme Court decision, an executive order. No, normally it's a Supreme Court decision. Or you get states that start falling in line one by one, like the marijuana situation. That's how we achieve change. If you would, there were so many people arguing, literally arguing. Nancy Pelosi, like, just because you force the vote against Nancy Pelosi or get Nancy Pelosi to force a vote on healthcare doesn't mean you're going to get healthcare. Are you a child? No one thinks that's exactly how it works. No one said, yeah, hold the vote against Nancy Pelosi until she promises to force a vote on healthcare, and tomorrow we'll have healthcare. No one with any level of sense thinks that. No adult thinks that's how Sam Cedar and all those type of dudes, that's how they were trying to picture, like, oh, these are just emotional kids. They're just kids. They're immature. They don't know how this stuff actually works. No, we know how it works. But I know for a fact it doesn't work like that, but you have to start. You have to begin somewhere. You have to, the first thing you have to do when you're a parent, one of the first things you have to do when you're, especially as your kid begins to become more conscious of actions and consequences, what is one of the first things you have to do? Make them aware that you are the parent, and make them aware that their actions can have rewards or consequences, because that very simple philosophy, if understood, will guide the decisions that they make for the rest of their lives. If I do this action, I could have this consequence. And as they get older, the concept of actions and consequences obviously becomes more complex and more layered. Yeah, if I do this, I might get a temporary reward, but I could have long-term consequences. If I do this, I could have a consequence that's not that bad, but be rewarded a little bit more for doing this later. But the basic philosophy, the basic concept of actions and consequences starts when, damn near before you can talk. So what Bree was explaining is, once you show that you are willing to hold Nancy Pelosi accountable, once you show that, everybody else starts watching. All the other Democrats are watching. Joe Biden himself is watching. The person who might be trying to run for Speaker of the House next, like Hakeem Jeffries, is watching. They know how far you're willing to go. They know how far you're willing to elevate the conversation. They'll also figure out along the way which Republicans are also willing to assist in whatever particular issue. And they have to then consider those consequences with every single decision they make going forward. You get what I'm saying? The Republican, if whoever, there's rumors that it could be McCarthy who's House Speaker again. There's rumors that could happen. And it's like, I don't really care either way if he actually, you know why? Because guess what he knows now? One, he's already been made a mockery of. Two, he is aware of how far Matt Gaetz is willing to go. Now he is seeing how popular Matt has gotten from making this happen. Something that actually people were expecting to not happen. Everybody's like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen, right? This is just for show. He's not gonna actually get him out. Until, for selfish reasons, Democrats played along. Because in their mind, they think that they can obviously probably get Hakeem Jeffries in or whatever, or set the stage to get Hakeem Jeffries in or make an argument. But they have their own agenda and their own motives. But the moral of the story is, because Matt demanded consequences, Kevin McCarthy got to see all of the consequence, like every single, like, damn, if I don't do this, if I continue to negotiate with Biden on Ukraine, if I don't do what my party expects of me, I now know that there's not only my party, like in Matt Gaetz, that I have to worry about. I thought it was just him. I thought that he was a problem. Remember? Because he was tweeting, talking about some bring it on. Bring it on. Y'all didn't see that tweet? He actually said that. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Yeah, but he actually said that. He said, bring it on. But he now knows that there are consequences to that. So say if he happens to win again, if he does, it ain't like winning before. It isn't like when he was speaking before, because now you are consciously aware that if you do what you did before, there is a team of vultures just waiting to hold you accountable. Oh, here it is. I found the tweet. And I can tell you, it did not age well for him. It did not. It just, yeah. That's what he said, bring it on. Had to take it back to Gabrielle Union, old fine self. Yeah, that just did not age well, bro. Really quick, let's go look at the comments. I know I'm petty, y'all. Bring it on, man. That man got 30 goddamn replies. Look at the book, 915 bookmarks. Read the room. Ooh, you betrayed Americans for Ukraine. None of this would be happening if you hadn't broke the promises you made. You're not worried because Democrats will unanimously vote to save your skin. See, he thought that. They thought that. But you don't know until you know. And Democrats, more Republicans, if I'm not mistaken, voted to save his skin than Democrats. But Democrats also were the reason that's what put him over the top. Man, that boy clicked the fuck around button and it spit out some found out. That's what happened. He said, boop, fuck around. Here's your found out. Because that shit, that escalated so quickly. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm gonna read some comments really quick and then I'm gonna talk about Haiti. Because that situation is sad as hell. And it needs to be. Y'all need to, hey, when y'all get a chance, first of all, like this video, share this video. When y'all get a chance, tell your people that you like when you're on their comment section. Talk about Haiti. You know, I talk about Haiti pretty often. I talk about Africa pretty often. But the reason that those issues kind of get pushed to the wayside is because no one talks about them. And no one knows just how bad things get there. They know, like, for example, people know about the UN resolution, right? That's all they know. People are like, damn, why are they invading Haiti? Well, because they know you're not going to pay attention. Oh, y'all can't hear me for real? Oh, that's from before. My bad. Okay, cool. Aaron says Sam Cedars, he's earning his corporate buck. Sam Cedar's audience is literally too brain broken to cope with Sam Cedar not being right, which is wild because I can't think of the last time Sam Cedar was right about literally anything. That boy is a professional wrong person. I've never seen anything quite like it. Tracy said Matt Gaetz is the only member of Congress that didn't take money from lobbyists. He's relying on small donors. He's not. I didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know. Glad to have you. Charles Kimbrough said, glad to have you back. Appreciate you. Rondo Ellsworth said, forced to vote was an integrity test, if anything. Absolutely. Well, yeah, it was an integrity test, but it was also like reality, right? Like we could have actually gained something from it. That's the crazy part. Yeah, it was an integrity test because it was the one chance in my lifetime that progressives actually held the cards. And it was because of the similar outcome, the way that things played out with McCarthy, right? No one thought that this was going to happen because they're like, there's no way the Democrats are going to protect him because he's actually working with Biden to give them what they want. And the Democrats were like, actually, shit. You thought that? Loyalty is not easily bought in Washington. It is very expensive. All right. So that being said, I want to talk about this resolution with the UN. So for those of you who don't know, the UN Security Council, of course, voted to effectively invade Haiti. So they're doing it to bring peace. It's important to know that both Russia and China abstain from this completely. Kenya is sending troops there, like 1,000 police officers there. That's not a good thing. The United States is only sending $100 million. More, of course. But they said that they're only going to send $100 million and that they're not actually going to send troops there. Well, it turns out that was a lie. There actually have been special forces in Haiti for like the last 45 days or so. Dan Cohen reported yesterday, actually. They're claiming, no, they're not claiming, this is actually true. The president, Ariel Henry, invited the United Nations in. He said because of the gang violence. It's crazy. It's always gang violence, terrorists, rebels. I can't get my country under control for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to protect democracy. Now, you guys know if the United Nations, especially the UN Security Council, and especially the same UN Security Council that is effectively headed by the United States, if they are going into a nation with military force, how much democracy do you think exists there? How much democracy do you think is there? It's either they're very democratic and they're not, and they weren't invited. But the UN decided to go there anyway. That's usually when the Human Rights Council gets involved, right? The Human Rights Council, the same Human Rights Council with Saudi Arabia and the United States on it. But when they're invited, that's when the UN Security Council votes and says, we'll go help you out. Do you know why there's a bunch of civil unrest in Haiti right now, ladies and gentlemen? The people probably before rioting would vote out the president. Try that first. See if something new might change things. They couldn't do that because the president canceled the elections this year. And if they didn't like him the last time, like they could have voted him out the last election, except for they couldn't do that because the elections were canceled before too. And once Henri took over after Moise was assassinated by a CIA, like by literally, it was organized by a Fed like operative, which is crazy. That's a whole different conversation. But once Moise was assassinated, he actually appointed Henri. That was only supposed to last for 120 days, and on the 121st day, they were supposed to hold elections. Yeah, those elections didn't happen. Henri, he canceled them. And you would think that maybe the legislature would step in, right? Like the assembly or the Senate, maybe one of them would step in. Yeah, all those seats are empty. All of those seats are empty. Supreme Court, nah, basically not. It's not functioning at all. Ladies and gentlemen, the last time Haiti had an election was 2016. That is the last time that Haiti had an election, y'all. So do you think this is the unrest in Haiti is a bunch of gang violence and they're just out of control and they just are committing violence for the sake of committing violence? Do you think that's what it is? Or do you think what's actually happening is there is a dictator in power? This dictator is a US puppet. He is a Western puppet. This dictator now wants to maintain power, and he requested the assistance of the United Nations because he knew once he canceled another election, it's 2023, bro. They haven't had an election since 2016. They haven't chosen their president, and even that wasn't really a choice. But they haven't had the opportunity to choose their president since 2016, people. So do you think that once Henri decided he was going to cancel another election, he knew what was coming? And in order to maintain his dictatorship, the dictatorship that is approved by the West, he knew that he had to invite in the United Nations and specifically the United States. And what's crazy about the United Nations being involved at all is that they were actually, I don't know if I know this, they were actually in Haiti for 17 years. They were in Haiti for 17 years. Do you know what they achieved? Not a goddamn thing. The only thing that they achieved in Haiti, the United Nations, was that they managed to bring more guns into the country than had ever existed before. So actually they made the situation worse. That's what's happening in Haiti right now. In other words, it's an invasion to protect the dictator. And they know that this is Haiti. Haiti has a track record of overthrowing people. And the more, especially right now, the more frustrated people get, the more they organize. And then what happens next? The dictator gets overthrown. So of course, what is the US, the UN, unfortunately now Kenya, what do? They go to protect it. I mean, bro, this is the United States, the United Nations, the UN Security Council. They have never met a dictator they didn't like until that dictator stopped doing what they wanted them to do, or until they needed a scapegoat. But generally speaking, the UN has not met a dictator that they did not like. Hell, if you're a dictator, you might end up on like the humanitarian committee, the human rights committee. Seriously, Saudi Arabia got it. That is what's happening in Haiti right now, bro. They are invading the country to protect the dictator, and that's not being discussed enough. I know people are saying like, "Oh yeah, like we no intervention, no intervention." It isn't just intervention. This is basically the opposite of Libya. Like, you know how they went into Libya, they called Gaddafi a dictator, and then they got him they funded rebels, terrorists, really, and assaulted his regime and got him assassinated by calling him a dictator. This is literally the opposite side of that. This is our dictator is in power. We want to make sure that you cannot challenge him. So we are going to send weapons that you cannot possibly compete against. We're going to send troops from multiple nations. The United States already has special forces on the ground. Apparently, the entirety of 7th Group is there. And they are literally about to turn Haiti upside down to protect the dictator who is canceling elections again. The world we live in, I mean, these people are evil, bro. I don't know how to, like, they're evil. They're not even, you got, they applauding Nazis. You got another speaker fired because he wants to give money to the Nazis. You got Zelensky, they was like, they hit him with that. They always say, what do you mean? You know, Nazis. Zelensky's Jewish. Yeah, and we like racism was suddenly resolved in the US because Obama is black. Come on, bro. That's the dumbest. Come on. You got the UN literally like not even pretending that they're about protecting democracy. You want to go protect democracy? You want to go protect human rights? How about you send in a little troops, some troops from the UN to go bust up Israel's ass? How about that? You really want to, protect human rights? How about that? Go send them to Israel and bust their ass. But no, you want to send one of the most highly capable militaries in the world, in the military and police force from several nations, to protect the dictator who was not elected for a government that doesn't have, and they keep, bro, how they don't keep calling Putin a dictator? They call Putin a dictator every chance they get. But Henri, he's a president. Nobody elected him, but he's a president. Doesn't have a Congress at all. Assembly, House, Senate, none, but he's a president. Doesn't have a Supreme Court, but he's a president. Zelensky canceled every other political party, but he's a president. Is canceling elections, but he's a president. But Maduro's a dictator, even though he has a legislature. He has an election. They call Evo Morales a dictator, even though he has a legislature, he has an election, he has a Supreme Court and a legislature. Putin has elections, legislature, courts. But Henri's a president, and the latter are dictators. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. That is criminal. And more people need to be talking about this situation in Haiti. For the love of God. I'm so sick. I'm gonna rant before I go, but I'm just so sick and tired. Like the moment that something like this with Haiti, something with Africa, something with anywhere in the Caribbean, even in Brazil, no one gives a fuck when it's happening. Everyone wants to do a documentary about it and talk about it after it happens. No one wants to talk about the fact that Nigeria has a president that's literally a fucking drug dealer. He's an international drug dealer from Chicago who has a fake college degree. He's literally getting investigated. Him and his university, I think it's Chicago State University. Tinubu, the man is getting invested. His whole life, it's false. The U.S. placed him there. Nigeria is like in chaos because of the US. But, you know, there's a bunch of black people, so nobody cared. Nobody wants to talk about it. Like, there's a whole drug dealer from the US that was planted. He was not only planted in Nigeria as their president, he was also planted as the chairman of ECOWAS, which is like the West African countries, like their coalition. And that's how people get caught off guard whenever something like Libya happens. They're like, what the hell? How did this even happen? Well, they were setting the stage in Chad to send those terrorists into Libya so that Gaddafi was forced to respond, obviously, forced to defend his people. And then they used that against him and said he was attacking his own people. People took so long to arrive to the conclusion that Assad was being set up when they were like, oh, he's attacking his own people. Why? Because he had to attack these terrorists. Do you know if you would have been paying attention to the Gaddafi situation when it was happening in real time, you would have known Assad. They were trying to play the public on Assad from the beginning because they didn't even use a different playbook. They used the exact same one. But it doesn't fall into, you know, I know African problems don't fall into the algorithm. No one cares about it because the algorithm does. You know, Haiti's problems don't get boosted by the algorithm, so no one cares about it. Like, I'm tired of seeing documentaries about the shit that happens in black countries. Like, by the same people who have the influence to talk about it now. I got huge respect to Dan Cohen because Dan Cohen's actually been covering Haiti for a hot minute, trying to bring attention to the shit that's happening there. David, who covers a lot of stuff that goes on in Africa. There's just not enough. Like, bro, these issues, I don't know if y'all been paying attention, but these issues are damn near more important because the fourth industrial revolution cannot happen without the Democratic Republic of Congo, without Nigeria, without Niger, without Mali, Burkina Faso, and all the other West African countries. It cannot happen without Haiti. People are, for some reason, completely unaware of the fact that World War III is basically, it's already, people think we're starting World War III. It's already here. What do you mean? They were applauding Nazis before the US ever decided to start fighting them in World War II. The war had already started and they were applauding Nazis. They were letting Nazis host the Olympics. They were letting Nazis run around with Nazi flags and shit. And FDR's administration were apologizing. I don't know what happened to my camera. I'm about to figure it out though. Give me a sec. Oh, here we go. We back. Like, but no one thinks that World War III has officially popped off. Why? Well, most of the war is being fought in Africa and about to be fought in the Caribbean. And there's a bunch of black people in the way. Just like nobody knows about just how many people Hitler killed in Africa. These issues matter. And it's up to us to elevate them and up to people to talk about them. And y'all, like people, y'all know, all the journalists, all the independent content creators, a lot of them cover stories that you tell them to, that you suggest to them, that you show interest in. Most of them don't cover, they cover sometimes stuff like that CNN and Fox News talk about. Some of the times they cover stuff that trends, but oftentimes you're the ones that make the stories trend. So if I can only do so much, you know, for no other reason, you got to care about these issues because they will affect you. They will affect you soon. You know how it goes? It may not affect you today, but it'll affect you tomorrow. People will, y'all, everybody here, I know y'all been paying attention to Ukraine for a long time. What did we say in the beginning? Okay, y'all can mess around and not care about Ukraine now, but when that inflation pops up, when them gas prices start going crazy, when them wheat prices start going crazy, when the oil starts getting crazy, when the inflation starts getting the reckless spending and then the protection, if you were following the Ukraine situation from the beginning, everything that is happening now, like before it was, oh, that's the Ukraine's problem. But we were saying, this is what's going to happen here. These are the problems that y'all are going to have to face. You know, Western Europe, those independent journalists were saying the same thing. Like, y'all do know, like, that shit ain't going to stay over there. Those problems are not going to stay over there. It's called reverberating impact. So what the fourth is, when we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, like shit, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure France is finding out the hard way. People in France weren't holding, well, I can't say they weren't, you know, they'd be protesting all the time, but people in France maybe weren't aware of just how corrupt the relationship between them and Niger actually was. And now the uranium prices in Niger, they could have been doing fair business with Niger this entire time, but the uranium prices in Niger are skyrocketing by 20% because they kicked France the fuck out. France didn't want to leave, and now they're paying the consequence. And guess who's going to have to feel the consequences now? France, the people of France, not Macron, because for some reason that motherfucker, he still keeps getting elected. That's a whole different thing. Y'all gonna have to explain that to me one day, France. But it's the people who are going to feel that. Just like right now, y'all, all the Western countries really, y'all gas prices are going crazy because of what's happening in Ukraine and because of how stupid the US is for messing with Russia. And the fact that Saudi Arabia and the OPEC countries either stay neutral or they're allying with Russia. If it isn't affecting you now, it will affect you eventually. And that's why you have to start paying attention now. Until people start talking about this shit now. Ukraine could have ended up worse than what it is if people weren't paying attention. But luckily, people are paying attention to it. People started to catch on how big of a deal this is. It kind of took a while. I didn't think it would take this long for people to care about the fact that money was going to Nazis, but this is the US, right? Takes a while for people to be like, damn, maybe we shouldn't have gave that money. Woo, boy. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream podcast. For the People podcast, make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. Subscribe if you are new. You can support the show once again by becoming a patron on Patreon. The link in the description. You can become a premium Rockfin member, or you can donate to Cash App or through Bitcoin. The address is also in the description. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.